First there was a monosyllabic tree man and a wise-ass furry geezer. Then there was a half-human, half-whatever they backstory today gunslinger and a most dangerous woman with an equally troubled past. But then there was 5. My name is Benji, and this is the review of the new Drax, but apparently not the Destroyer, Hero Pack. We'll be bringing you the lowdown and the skinny on all the cards of relevance found in this little plastic box, including his Signature 15, Obligation and Nemesis deck, as well as any other noteworthy and thematic pieces of the puzzle. As is custom then, we start at the top with our Identity's alter ego side, where we find that off-tank type breakpoint of 14 health, sat alongside a proportional 4 recovery and a welcome hand size of 6. But what's this here about new counters? Well, it's equal parts anticipation and equal parts I hate it when these things screw up the perfectly uniform order I'm supposed to present this video in. So sneak peek at his hero side and we see that turning sideways is one way to obtain some vengeance. And so flipping back to alter ego sees you banking said counters up to a maximum of 3 and healing 2 HP apiece. I say yes, thank you please. Not just because of the value on offer, although I'm sure we can find equally awesome things to do with our V, but because it gives you the option to sustain a level of tempo. You see, sometimes you're flipping back to alter ego to recover. Makes sense? Otherwise, why is the basic power there? But tapping in your scaredy cat form means you're not being proactive towards the end game. Here you get to do both. Swing for the fences and then run away and heal up. I really have a great deal of time for the elegance of this ability, and I just hope it doesn't get too overshadowed by other uses for the big V. One reason it might not be when we look at Hero Drax, who just so happens to have the same name on both sides. Seriously, how do these guys tell the audience when they're not wearing their superhero pants? So yeah, one reason we might spend some time in alter ego is that dreaded hand size of 4. And the walls came tumbling down. Nah, there's no reason to panic just yet. Even when we see the equally terrifying 1-1-2 basic power stat line, at least it gives some clarity. You see, for every vengeance counter on our guy, which as I've already mentioned maxes out at 3, you get an attack buff. So after 3 turns outside of encounter shenanigans, that stat line becomes a 4-1-2. Above average, yes, but overpowered, I wouldn't say so. Furthermore, that also goes somewhat against what I said about the lack of tempo loss, flipping back to alter ego, because now we know it's going to take 2 or 3 turns to get back to where we want to be. Maybe, just maybe though, his Signature 15 will put all of these reservations and caveats out to pasture. Of course, drawing a card when you're maxed out on V is no bad thing. Does this then just become the challenge? Keep him at max and have an effective hand size of 5 in hero form. That could certainly be a winning recipe. So signature card number 1 is also our hero's BFF, and here in the guise of the 2-costing Mantis, who I think we can agree is almost the perfect counterweight to our Drax. 2 thwart and 1 attack, which you'll likely never use because of the 2 incidental damage, and why would you? She's got 2 bloody thwart and 3 bloody health, all for $2. That alone would make her the cat's pyjamas because, you know, value. But she can also turn sideways, take a chip damage and heal 3 for modern identity. Seriously, this is A great card, and B, a superb support card for our Destroyer. 2 copies of Fight Me Coward are up next, and this initially had me thinking the downside was way too great, but let's look at this from a different perspective. So for 0 cost, and this wouldn't work any other way, you get to ready your hero and draw a card, in essence to replace this one. The villain then attacks you. Obviously the card draw is not where the power in this card comes from though. It's all about the vengeance counter synergies. Now, what do you do when you ready your hero is going to depend on how many counters you have and where your health pool is at. Only sitting at one attack, then defend, mitigate some damage and live to do greater damage another day. If you already have 2 or 3V, then this is a resource card, pure and simple. Unless you're desperate to cycle a card or you need to level up or finish the game immediately. With all that being said, this falls into the necessary category as opposed to the that's a sweet ass card category. A double helping of intimidation is the way Drax rolls, and this is the token offset thwart card for attack centric heroes. Here letting you treat your thwart characteristic as your attack. This will definitely come in handy, and trust me when I say there will be instances where this will be an absolute lifesaver, especially in solo play where the fear that he was going to be a one-trick pony is slowly being rectified. Going full commitment to vengeance is another 2 of Knife Leap. Like a ninja from the shadows, this deals +5 attack to your hero's basic power at a variable cost. Suffice to say, there aren't that many cards in the library that do more damage for less. But here we are like a pig that flies at night. It can give you up to a maximum of 9 damage on attack when you rotate sideways, and at a cost of DJ Nudder. But you want to know why I love this card? Because unlike some other brute force high attack characters that have limited access to overkill and more pertinently piercing, there is more or less nothing that gets in the way of this popping off. This is value on a stick. 2 copies of Parry is up next, and what a lovely card that gives you one more opportunity to swing for the fences and not have to tap yourself down to defend. How can this be anything other than a great tempo card? Yes, okay, you might only have 3 cards in hand the next time you get to do something, but you're probably rocking 4 attack by this point, so who gives a Donald? I must say I'm mighty impressed with some of these 0 cost cards. They fit like a glove with Drax's playstyle. Moving to Singleton Town for the remainder, we have Drax's Knife, which is the obligatory basic power buff card for a buck and no cents. Could I style this out a bit more? Okay, yep, I got it. I like the idea of attacking for a native 5, and I also like wild symbols on my cards. But look, bless, he's got another knife, and look at him, he's sharpening it. I bet he talks to this one at night. Is this strictly inferior to number 1 knife? Well, mostly yes, mostly no. The question is, over the course of the game, will minion attacks, surge attacks from the villain, and you defending outweigh the time you use your basic attack power? Well, I suppose it depends on the scenario, but I'm going with they're both good cards, and it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. So come on, what are we calling this? Dwy or Dweethweet? Either way, Draxus has mastery of this fictional martial discipline, and it allows him to draw cards after basic attacks. Now this unassuming little fella is a peach of a card if you ask me. The glaring downside of this hero so far is that difficult to manage hand size of 4. But with this card and the intermittent card draw from his hero ability, coupled with a very low signature card resource curve, I think that the designers may have finally got the balance right here. We're not exactly saving the best till last with the 2 stubborn to die, but I like a good Joker card just as much as the next person, and this does exactly that. Turning a swingy turn you either weren't expecting or you pushed your luck too far, this gives you a second life. I can't grumble with the cost, and the nominal risk to this being lost to upgrade hate is no reason not to call this anything other than a worthwhile bookend to DTD's signature 15. So that's all the good shizzle. What about the stuff that's out to make our hero channel a sad panda? Well, his obligation, Memories of Another Life, does not break the mould in any way, shape or form. Although both options fundamentally do the same thing, If the time is right and the stars align, you may be able to shift the stun token at nominal cost. Either way, I feel obliged to say that this is just a slap in the tempo face, and let's move on. Who then would you have picked as our boy's nemesis? You're absolutely right, Yotat the Destroyer. This is where my intermediate Marvel knowledge gets well and truly mocked, as I have no Scooby-Doo who this guy is. What my eyes tell me though is that he's not one to be trifled with. 5 HP isn't too bad compared to other Nemesi, but with the 3 attack and retaliate, you're sure glad Drax can dish out some big hits with one swing of his card. For one thing, Knife Leak makes a mockery of it and whacks the villain for a bit too. A strong nemesis then, but one I think our identity has the means to deal with fairly comfortably. I'm not too stressed about Cole of the Week either. Remember, 9 times out of 10 you're going to have a whole turn to deal with this and old Yotat over there. And at 2 threat ahead, I can think of worse things to keep me awake at night. Still, if you're in a minion heavy scenario and you don't deal with this, just understand that you've got what you got coming to you if you don't prioritise its removal. Then I say challenge accepted, and it's bleeding surge. Outside of that is manageable. Again, getting hit with +2 attack is no one's idea of a good night out, but unless you're pretty unlucky with the timing of this draw, you shouldn't be sweating too much about it. But why did it have to have surge? Do I have to accept the challenge? Rounding things out then, this is the obligatory 2 copies of the when revealed card, I Will Destroy You. Doing anything but destroying you in alter ego form, or receiving the gift of being punched in the face in hero form. Although, as we already know, Drax likes being attacked, if you know what I mean. Likes it. And there you have What is Drax in 21 cards. But we do have one thematically synergistic non-signature card to talk about before we go, and that is of course Basic Ally Gamora. A 3 costing, 2 attack, 3 health ally is the very epitome of acceptable. But the cherry on top is an event seeking ability that procs when she attacks or thwarts. It's card advantage, which is rarely, aka never, a bad thing, but a lot of its impact will depend on your deck, so think carefully before considering her for inclusion. I for one am glad I can now go full theme with my deck building the next time I one-shot the first 4 villains of the Galaxy's Most Wanted campaign before, well, you know. And that is Drax in a fairly big nutshell. I must say he hath impressed me. I wasn't on the right side of optimistic early doors, but he is a man that can crack a nut and has secondary tools to be competent in solo and some amazing tools to be the primary damage dealer in multiplayer. His stat distribution suggests he's a bit of a meathead, predominantly interested in smashing face, but he's arguably the most well-rounded of identities that fit into that category to date. I have been the voice of Benji, and this is him telling you that this video has ended.